All right, hello and happy Monday. Today we are going to be working on a skill called note polishing, or at least that's what I call it. And essentially, what this means is taking all of these notes that you worked so hard on and took last week and essentially making them useful to you, right? Because we look at all these quotes and notes, if my thing would scroll, all this here. And if you just skim it, or if you just take one glance at it, it might not be super beneficial to you because you're like, whoa, I don't even remember like why I copied and pasted that. I don't remember the purpose of that at all. So it's important that once you take your notes to kind of go back in and realize, okay, what am I going to use these notes for when I actually go to write my essay? So the first thing that you can do to polish your notes is to paraphrase things that don't need to be as long as they are. So let's go to my first source here. It was the article on zero waste restaurants. And I see this quote from David Succi, who owns a zero waste restaurant. I would say that this is a pretty solid quote in the sense that it's very short. He's very brief in what he says. Everybody's realizing there needs to be a change. Just talking about it isn't enough. And all of this information here is just giving him some credibility. Like he actually owns a zero waste restaurant, so he would know. So I would say that all of that information is good to keep. What I'll have you know here is that this quote originally was a quote. It was a very long paragraph that I had copied and pasted about the economic benefit of waste reduction. And I thought to myself, okay, ultimately, I'm not going to copy and paste this entire paragraph into my essay. I really only need the facts. So what I did was I summarized it in my own words. I said there's an economic case to be made for waste reduction. One study shows that restaurants save $7 for every $1 invested in anti-waste methods. Boom. That is two sentences instead of the 5 to 7 sentences that I had copied and pasted over, right? So it's very important that you look at all of your sources and think, okay, when I actually write my essay, what am I actually going to copy and paste in my essay? Or what information am I actually going to use to write my essay? Because ultimately, you're not copying and pasting all of these notes. You're using the notes to inform you so that you can write a really intelligent essay, right? This whole essay isn't going to be somebody else's words. Most of it will be your words. So think about that when you are paraphrasing here. If most of the essay has to be your words in order for you to not get clocked for plagiarism, how do you need to change your notes? Okay, copying and pasting is a start for notes, paraphrasing is the final product. And of course, when you have exact quotes like this, those are fine to keep as quotes. So just remember that. All right, the next thing on my list for note polishing is creating a common font. That is just important for just visual appeal. So what you'll want to do is just copy and paste. I would say do Times New Roman 12. Look how much prettier that is, right? We don't have to take up like 9 boxes for just a couple of quotes. So we'll do 12 again. Much better. Yeah. So that's just much better for spatial organization and just to the eye when you're looking for things. You don't have these big block quotes that you have to dig through, right? All right, so just making that common font, and I would highly recommend doing the bullets or changing them over to numbers, like I'm going to talk about in a little bit here. So the next part of note polishing is designating and finding your claims. Because the whole point of doing research was to figure out, okay, what are the reasons why I am arguing what I'm arguing? So if we go up to my argument, my topic is waste reduction. And my argument is that all countries should have a regulated zero waste or waste reduction system. So I'm very specific. I'm writing to all the leaders of all the countries in the world, and I'm saying all of you guys should implement some sort of system to promote regulated waste or zero waste. So what I did before I came up with all this stuff is I looked through my notes and I thought, okay, out of all of this stuff that I have here, what are the common reasons that keep coming up to support this topic? So what are the reasons that I keep finding in all these articles that are saying, yes, we need to promote zero waste, yes, we need to promote waste reduction? So if we look at these couple of quotes here, we see everybody's realizing there has to be a change. He says, just talking about it isn't enough. So that kind of set off an alarm in my brain. Okay, people are talking about how just having slogans and posters up saying, don't throw away all your trash, recycle, blah, blah, blah. It isn't enough. We need to do something about it, okay? So as I kept reading, I found that there were other articles that talked about this as well. The government has all these policies and slogans, but if you go around the city, you see all the waste is still mixed, okay? So that's another quote that became a common denominator. Okay, one solid reason for my argument is that the slogans and the propaganda have not been proven to be enough when it comes to waste management. We have to have a system. So I stuck that as one of my claims. As I kept looking in my notes, I also found that there is an economic benefit to waste reduction when it comes to companies. It says that restaurants save $7 for every $1 invested. Okay, that's a pretty good reason. So I put that down as another one of my claims. Finally, for my last article, I found that the environmental benefit was a huge driver in a lot of the articles, right? Reducing your waste ultimately is going to reduce pollution, and therefore we're going to have a cleaner, healthier planet. That's a huge one. That's what this project is all about, really. So that was one of my reasons. So here's what I did. I thought about what I found in my notes, and I listed my reasons 1, 2, 3. 1, waste reduction saves companies money, improves the economy overall. 2, slogans and propaganda are not enough. We have to do something. 3, active waste reduction has proven to be beneficial to the environment. Then I thought about my counterclaim. So I went to my middle column and I thought, okay, if I have all of these reasons that are good for my argument, what is going to go into my last paragraph where I talk about what other people might think? And a lot of what I found was just that people were finding it difficult to organize and implement these zero waste systems. All the time that went in, it was very hard to get payout from it in a very immediate, instant gratification type of manner. And that's what I found across all 3 articles that I found. Okay, so what I did was I said, all right, that's going to be my counterclaim then. People are saying that the effort behind waste reduction and attempting to go zero waste is time consuming for very little payout. So then I went back up to my reasons and I thought, okay, if only 2 of my paragraphs are going to be standalone paragraphs that talk about just the reasons that support my argument, which one of these reasons can I use as the rebuttal for the counterclaim? So if they're saying that it has very little payout, I could argue that it's really beneficial for the environment in the long term. So saying that some people might think that it's time consuming for no payout, but I'll come back and say, ultimately, the payout is very long term in terms of how we are benefiting the environment, right? So I have 2 paragraphs that stand alone, a counterclaim paragraph, and a rebuttal with my third claim. And that is how you find claims and counterclaims in your notes. It's actually very easy, right? Once you read over your notes and really kind of let all of it sink in, you can come up with common reasons very quickly. Once you have those reasons, it's also easy to think about, okay, what would other people potentially say about this topic? It doesn't even have to be written in an article anywhere. You could just assume that people might not want to go zero waste because of how time consuming it is. So really, you don't even have to find any scholarly information to give you your counterclaim. Just think in general, what are people saying, and which one of my reasons that I found could come back and combat that counterclaim. All right, so I think that was all I wanted to cover for note polishing. Ooh, last thing, you don't have to do this, but I find that it's very helpful when you're organizing your notes, because ultimately when you write this letter, you're going to have to pair evidence with your claims. So reason, evidence, just like we read in Dakota's article. So if you want, you can take this bullet point, delete it, and say, okay, this was the quote where the person was talking about how the slogans and propaganda aren't enough, we have to do something. That supports my second reason. So I could put a 2 in there to show that this evidence could pair with my second paragraph. Here we could go that it's good for the environment. That was my third reason. Type a 3 in there and do that for all of your claims. And then you won't have to dig through all of your notes when you're looking for evidence to support your claims. What you can do with this template is essentially create like an outline of what your letter will look like. All of the paragraphs will have a reason and a piece of evidence. So today, your job is just to go through and try some of these things. Try the paraphrasing, try color coding. I think this is super helpful. Making the argument blue, claims green, counterclaim red, numbering your evidence based on which claim they support, and and really just making sure that it is visually appealing so that you aren't having to dig through different fonts and different sizes to find things. So obviously the way that I created the template, the only thing it has is name, topic, argument. You'll have to add in the claims and counterclaim, but that's not hard to do, and go in and highlight them as well for visual purposes. So that is all for today. If you would like to move on and start outlining or drafting your essay just to get ahead, that's totally fine, but nothing is going to be due today other than the polishing of your notes, making sure they are ready for the writing process this week. And tomorrow I will teach you how to write your introduction. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.